Go ahead, Shire.
All right.
Yeah, bro.
All right, yo, we're going to go ahead and get into it, man. Y'all know what time it is, baby. It's a DB podcast. We got 2 guest speeches here today. One in person to my right, your left. We got D. Jones in the building. Darius
happy
Jones.
to be here.
Sheesh.
Yes, sir. And then we got on the call our boy, Phyllip Thomas, a.k.a. Rez Raised.
Sheesh.
Yup. Good to have you on
bro.
here. Yes, sir. This one definitely going to be a good topic, I think. And I wanted to get these 2 on here because I like the input and the insight that they continuously give. And these are conversations that we usually have on a regular anyway. It may not necessarily be specifically this topic, but we touch on things that are related to it. So we just gonna go ahead and get into it, man. For this one, we got athletes and activism. You know, I think this is something that goes without saying. I also believe that this is like a double-edged sword, kind of, that athletes walk on, because sometimes it may seem like there's a right way for us to speak out, and then sometimes it may seem like there's a wrong way to speak out. Either way, a lot of the times there's usually some backlash when athletes speak out. You know, there's a couple of examples that I have that we can get into, and we can just discuss those. Does anybody have just something off the dome that they just want to get out there when it comes to this, or you just want to go ahead and get into the topics?
We can get into the topic.
All right, so
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Let's get into it.
all right.
Get it, Reed.
So, one of the main things that I wanted to get to, and we're gonna talk about LeBron a lot, because 1, he's prominent. 2, he's done a lot. Like, this is a guy who has a huge platform. I mean, huge, and he faces a lot of criticism with that platform. So there's a couple of examples that I have for him. The number one thing that I want to get into is something that actually happened recently. So, we got the pandemic, obviously, and LeBron was on a interview. He was on a live interview on TV. You know, they had the recordings and everything, and he was asked, "Will you take the vaccine?" And his response to it, and I got it right here. I'm gonna go ahead and read it off for you.
You got the receipts.
I got the receipts. This is exactly what he said. He said, "That's a conversation that my family and I will have. Pretty much keep that to a private thing." You know, he said, obviously I saw NBA Commissioner Adam Silver had his comments about the vaccination, but things like that, when you decide to do something, that's a conversation between you and your family and not for everybody. I'll keep it that way. Seems like it's just something simple. You know, I like the response because it makes sense to me, but he received criticism on that because I believe that there are people out there who knows that he has a huge platform and he can reach young people and young minority people who, when you watch the news, they say are taking the vaccine at a lower rate than they would like. You follow me? So and this is just my assumption, you know, just my opinion. They wanted him to kind of say, "Yes, I'll take it," just to persuade others to take it, especially others like us. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, but that's the reason why we have athletes be, outspoken, because they're telling the truth. You know what I mean? Like you exactly what you just said. You know, the media, the politicians want him to say something other than what he truly believes in, right? That's their way of doing things. That's the media's way of doing things. We need people that we all look up to that are doing it in the true way of view. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with LeBron, I think exactly what he did is exactly what he should have done.
Right.
You know what I mean? Be yourself. You know what I mean? Don't do it for another person's liking or anything. And then if you want him to set a good role model for these younger people, then he's doing exactly what he should do in that situation, to be himself. Don't be influenced by the majority and what everybody else is doing. Find your own research into it. Go to your own family to talk about it yourselves before y'all make such a decision. Like I always say, some people should take the vaccine, some people shouldn't. It's all about individual take on it. Don't let everybody else, influence yours. So I think LeBron did perfectly what he should have done. Everyone, the media is gonna have their opinion.
Yeah. What you think?
I kind of agree with Reef. I think that he's allowed to keep some things in his life personal.
Right.
If that's what he wants to do, that's his decision. People feel like a lot of times these people in these higher positions, they owe their lives to everyone. You know what I mean? I think he's allowed to keep things about his life discreet, and that can be an internal conversation. And you don't have to make your decision on the spot like that, because that's not fair to him. You know, as a human being, to make that decision on the spot if he didn't talk to his family about that, because at the end of the day, they should come first in his life before his career, before basketball, before all his business endeavors. Your wife comes first, or your kids come 1st, your mom, your whoever, they come first. You know what I mean? So I think that's the right answer. You talk to them first.
And I love how you brought that up, because like we can even talk about, let's say he says it right there that I'm taking the vaccine, before he talks to his family about it, and his son is like, nah, I didn't really want to take it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of having a conversation before and being like, all right, what we're going to give out to the public, now there's a clash between family members, and that both major influences in the media that's going to create headlines for him and bring stress to him. The media and who everybody else have now gotten what they wanted, the benefit of LeBron saying, I'm going to take it, and they take off and run with it. They're probably going to be the same people coming around and bashing Bron and his son for the situation happening.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, the media be on their time, and we just, you know, star players and people like him just got to do what they do. You know what I mean? Keep being you.
Go ahead, Rez, what you think?
And you see that a lot with people that, like, usually the ones that are doing all the criticizing are the ones that have something to benefit from that agenda, whichever way they seem that, oh, the athlete should say this or the athlete should say that. And it's like, usually those are the only ones that be saying that are the ones that would benefit from those decisions they want him to make. At the end of the day, he's the king of kings. You know, people are going to judge him no matter what. And he couldn't have handled that any better, honestly. And honestly, that wouldn't, like a first year or even like a first few year player definitely wouldn't have been able to handle it that well. You could tell that he's just polished, and that's what comes with it.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, yo, he didn't say anything wrong. You know what I mean? Like, literally, he didn't say anything wrong. Now, that is an aspect of an athlete speaking out. Now, I want to switch gears to another prominent athlete that we know when talking about Michael Jordan. He was Cloud, but he was an athlete that didn't speak out in a particular situation, and I'm talking about going back to 1990 for that U.S. Senate race in North Carolina, where people kind of questioned him when he didn't endorse Harvey Gantt. And Harvey Gantt was a black dude. He was the mayor of Charlotte at the time, and he was running against Republican Jesse Helms. And Helms eventually went on to win that race, but people were looking at Jordan like, why didn't you back him? And then if you watched The Last Dance, in that they had the video of him on a tour bus saying Republicans buy Jordans too. You know, Republicans buy sneakers too. And he faced a lot of backlash on that one too. You know what I mean? But he did say that he was saying it like jokingly, like it wasn't a firm stance, and it was kind of like somebody just took it and ran with it. You know what I mean? That was never his really official stance on it. But at the end of the day, he didn't back that Democrat, and people wanted him to. You follow me? Yeah. So it's like, even when you don't say something, they want you to say, like, it's that's what I'm saying about, it's that double-edged sword. Like, even if you don't say something, they still are gonna look at you crazy. Like, why aren't you speaking out?
So what I think, how I feel about that is, you know, I do understand where everyone's coming from by bashing Jordan for what he did. At the end of the day, you want something in his you know, frame and his, you know, point in society to say something and be outspoken. But honestly, maybe we're glad that he did it, you know, because, and the reason why I say that is because look at his track record. You see that he said something like Republicans buy Jordans too. You know what I mean? You see, I don't know how true it is about, cause I've seen the rumors, but I don't know, I've never seen actual, you know, fact, but I've seen rumors about him owning prisons and things of that nature.
I heard that. Yeah. So, him investing into prisons and stuff like that.
So, I mean, like, overall, I don't think that this man, and you see it on the basketball court too, you see his personality. His personality is just to make sure his individual success is noted. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think he's a person that we would want to lead our people, you know what I mean, and or be the face of our people in notions like that. I'd rather LeBron James, who from the beginning has shown that he has always had a care for the community, a love for the community,
And a
you know
different
what I'm
type,
saying?
maturity level is crazy.
Because at the end of the day, what's gonna happen is he's gonna be held at such a high point by so many Black Americans, and then he's gonna crack or fold at some point. He's not built for that. You know what I mean? So maybe he wasn't for it, and he knew that. You know what I'm saying? So
The Democrat dude was black.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's wrong with staying on the fence about things, but I think the way he worded it was wrong. Republicans buy shoes too is kind of like saying, it's kind of taking support away from Democrats and saying I'm supporting Republicans too,
Right.
because they buy shoes too, rather than just truly staying on the fence. I don't think all athletes have to be outspoken about their political views or whatever. I don't think they all have to make that type of stand, but I don't think that you should be destructive if you say something like that. You know what I mean? I don't think it should be used to be destructive.
It's tough though, because with any regular athlete, you could say that. You know what I mean? Just whenever they're talking about that, just stick to the side, don't say much. But athlete like Michael Jordan, you know what I mean? He's the best player in the world for decades. There's
And
no way
at that time, he was the best player in the
He's not
world.
avoiding that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
but
He's not avoiding
I don't think you just show blind support for a politician just because people expect you to. You know what I mean? That's my point.
I don't
think you should show blind support, even if the dude is black and we do want to support, we want to support our people and stuff like that. I don't think you show blind support without doing your own due diligence and just support someone so naive. You know what I mean?
So to that point, I will say that from my perspective, especially at that time, you know what I mean? Things like at this time period where we have, you would have to be more, into who the person is. But I feel like at such a desperate time point for Black Americans in America, something like that had to be something everyone rooted for. Kind of like Obama in 2008. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, we didn't all look really into what Obama had in his policies and everything. You know what I'm saying?
He was just a black dude.
We needed that. That's something that dudes needed that. You know what I mean? And I feel like back then, when there was barely any Black people in politics, Black people needed that, regardless of who they were, you know what I mean, and they're real. But just to see someone there gives the next 4, 5, 10 kids that's watching him say, like, I could do that too.
But in terms of what we need as a whole is a different thing. But what if him as an individual, or Michael Jordan as an individual, felt the opposite and really wanted to support the Republican though?
And that's why I'm saying,
would you be opposed to him?
And that's why I'm saying, at the end of the day, I wouldn't.
Question.
That is a good question. And at the end of the day, that's why I said from the beginning, I wouldn't have wanted Jordan to say anything anyway. He wasn't built for the stage because his views wasn't going to support our whole idea, all Black people's agenda. You know what I'm saying? If he that's why he didn't want to say nothing. That's why every time he said something, it sounded stupid because he just wasn't with it. You know what I mean? We see Black people like that every day. You know what I'm saying? People who just don't support the holistic idea of what we want to do for Black people and Black culture in America. And nothing to them. We fighting for you too, but we don't need you either. That's the type of mentality I feel like we gotta have with that.
Nah, I think
That's true. And
Go ahead, Russ.
No, go ahead.
go ahead, DJ.
No, I was gonna say I think.
Oh no, I was just gonna
staying on the fence. My fault. I was gonna say I think staying on the fence. If you're gonna stay on the fence, you gotta stay on the fence. You know what I mean? Don't kind of make it seem like you're leaning one way or the other.
And on top of that, what Reef was saying before, like I heard the same thing with the whole prison system and like how that was where Jordan got a lot of his funds from and stuff like that. And then like I don't know, it makes you wonder. Like we didn't grow up at the same time as him or anything like that. So that's what else like puts our view into like a whole different perspective, because like when Jordan was coming up, that was like it was just completely different times. Like Reef was saying, and
I feel like
then you see things.
If there was my fault, Phil, but if there was any time for a Black person that in his situation to do something, it was then. Like we don't go through half the things they was doing.
Yeah, and then and another thing you see in business, like when people like when they really want to see something done, or when that people in business care about something, they'll either put their resources towards it or their money. And you see, one thing I did see Jordan do was with him and through his Jordan brand and stuff with Nike. I forgot what it was. I think it was like $100 million for like 10 years or something like that.
Yeah.
That he like pledged Black Lives Matter, and it's like, okay, well, I mean, he is like he's a billionaire definitely. So it's like, how much does that $100 million really mean to him? And it's like at that point when you even ask yourself that question, like I feel like we're just scrutinizing like way too much. Like,
And let's be
I
right.
don't know.
It's the Jordan brand too, so it's not necessarily all Jordan's money, like him himself.
And let's be real. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
even if it was him himself, it was right after people started really questioning him. People started questioning him as a person that supported black people about 2 years ago. Now he's doing this. It could be a publicity stunt too, you know. So like, yeah,
100 mil from Jordan brand at the end of the day, that could be just a tax write off.
yo, no cap,
for real.
no cap, no cap.
Yeah,
And that's what I'm saying. Like that's a deep question to really dive into because like unless you're asking Jordan, and even if you ask Jordan, you might not even get a real answer. So like there's really no way to even know.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. So now let's go ahead and get back to Bron, because we've seen the instance in where you speak out and he faced criticism, and that's just from media outlets. Jordan, he spoke out, but not necessarily in the way. Well, it wasn't even really like a public statement. He was just saying something amongst his peers on the tour bus. But I got the other example, which we saw not too long ago, where a soccer player spoke out against LeBron when LeBron was speaking out.
Zlatan?
So Zlatan, I think his name is. So he was
Zlatan.
initially saying he was speaking out about telling athletes to not speak out, pretty much.
What I say, Joe?
Yo, bro, he said,
What I say?
he said he didn't even take his own advice. Like, he was literally speaking. I got the quote right here, man. This is exactly what he said. He said, "Do what you're good at. Do the category that you do. I play football because I'm the best at playing football. I'm no politician. If I'd been a politician, I'd be doing politics. This is the first mistake famous people do when they become famous and come into a certain status. For me, it's better to avoid certain topics and do what you're best at doing because otherwise it doesn't look good." That's literally what he said. And it's
Yo, Joe, I bet you $100 is Zlatan, bro.
Yo, Phil, you start with this one.
Yeah, is Leighton
Bro,
I bet you $100. I bet you $100 is Zlatan, bro.
But yeah, it just go ahead, Rez. What you think, bro?
Bro, that just makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like I was literally just watching something about about putting putting all your eggs in one basket. Like for him to even say that and because he lived, and this is what I got out of it. Like when I thought back, like I tried to sit in his shoes. I'm like, why would he even say that?
Yeah.
Like he grew up in an entirely different country. Like I don't know where he's from, but there is nowhere in the world that is like the U.S. So like the fact that he grew up different from us, like, is definitely what points to me like, oh, okay, so he definitely didn't have to face certain things that people like Bron have faced, like growing up a broke kid in Akron, like no dreams, no dad, no nothing. Like he didn't have to go through certain things that some of us, like historically and systemically, have gone through. And he'll never understand. You can't really expect him to understand, but he has to be able to empathize with people who aren't like him. Like that's just shallow for him to even say something like that when politics affects our everyday lives, no matter what it is.
Yeah, that's good, bro. Yep.
I would say that, yeah, I'm not really jacking that unless he's playing football or soccer for free. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, sports is just another form of the entertainment industry, which means you're literally playing the game for people. You know, you're playing to serve people's entertainment needs or serve their needs in some form or fashion, you know? So because you're in the entertainment industry and because your job is playing soccer but entertaining or serving people, you should also be able to voice your opinion and serve your people really. And, you know, people who come from the same community as you, people who didn't make it, you know, you have that platform, you have that opportunity to speak to like individuals that you grew up with and, you know, kind of voice their opinions and stuff like that. So I don't know, I feel like
his whole statement in itself just, it doesn't make sense
Yeah.
because as a superstar person, as a celebrity, everything you do say is influencing itself. You know what I'm saying? Everything you wear is influencing yourself. He's saying that he doesn't speak on politics, but I promise you he influences someone's opinion on politics some way. You know what I'm saying? He says he doesn't speak on all that things that he says he doesn't do, he influences someone
Where's
else.
he from?
I just searched it up, Sweden. And
Sweden?
and I wanted to actually talk about that too. Phil, you touched upon the part of him growing up from in another country, and how he didn't have to go through the certain hardships that Bronwood went through. But a lot of some of these European countries also have gone through hardships of their own in different ways. You know what I'm saying? Whether you talk about the way that our government gives everyone the freedom to do whatever they please, they might not grow up in that same situation. You know what I mean? So for them, it is more of like a shut up and dribble type of society they live in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for them itself, it's like they come here and they see it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, are you stupid?
That's essentially what he said in another form, is shut up and dribble. And I like how you bring that up because a lot of countries face a lot of censorship. You know what I'm saying? So regardless of your status, if you're not in that higher ranking of people who dictate rules, you really don't have much freedom as we would here. So he could be looking at him saying like, yo, like,
I mean,
like,
you can even look at all the soccer superstars you see across the country, or across the world. You know what I'm saying? Do you see any of them speaking up about social things like that as much as you see American athletes do? You know what I'm saying? Why is that? I don't think it's because maybe they do in little aspects, but not as much as Americans. I don't think it's because they don't feel as strongly. It's because maybe they just wasn't even raised in that type of society. Like, they have the voice to talk,
Well, I got Bron's response here. I'll come in here with the receipts, bro. And I love his answer because it made 100%, like, it makes sense. So he said, at the end of the day, I will never shut up about things that are wrong. I preach about my people, and I preach about equality, social justice, racism, voter suppression, things that go on in our community because I was a part of my community at one point and saw the things that were going on. And I know what's still going on because I have a group of 300 plus kids at my school, I Promise School, that he built. At my school that are going through the same thing and they need a voice. I'm their voice and I use my platform to continue to shed light on everything that might be going on. Not only in my community, but in this country and around the world. There's no way I would ever just stick to sports because I understand this platform and how powerful my voice is, like you're saying. He can just ask Renee Montgomery if I would have shut up and just dribbled. Just seeing that beautiful black woman today be part of a group. She's part of the ownership group with the Atlanta Dream. You know what I'm saying? And he brings up good points because we got to look at it like this. Like, not only are athletes difference makers, but they know difference makers. They know people who are involved in legislation, whether it's on city, state, or country level. You know what I'm saying? They know actors, politicians, wealthy people, whatever the case is, they know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And at the end of the day, he's saying exactly what is supposed to be said. I'm giving a voice to the voiceless. How many people do you hear going through struggles that you don't know their story?
Hey, who was there's been a couple teams that have opened up their stadiums to let people come in and vote, right? To cast their votes. So picture you're the best player on that team and you really make it a point that I want our organization to help some way or do something. You go to the owner of your team and say, you got to do something. You know what I mean? You can influence just like that. You know, the top people, they know people who know people who know people.
Right.
And
so
he just sounds crazy in entirety just because you look at the aspect of politics in itself. It is, a democratic society. It is everybody has their voice. Say your voice. You know what I'm saying? So how are you blaming LeBron for using his voice and it just sounds louder than mine? You know what I'm saying? I have 1,700 followers. You know what I'm saying? I do whatever I do with the podcast and everything. Only those people hear me, but I still say exactly how I feel on the politics things I talk about.
Right.
You know what I mean? Things of that nature. I'm just talking about how I feel.
Bro.
LeBron just does it on a bigger level because he has a bigger audience.
Yeah.
You can't blame him for that.
Yeah.
Just because you don't dive into that knowledge and just because you don't talk about things like that and have that type of understanding doesn't mean you can't blame another person for having that.
Right. Go ahead, Rez.
This to me is really like laughable because it's like almost talking about like the separation of church and state. Like that's not even a real thing. There is none. There is no separation between politics and basketball, especially in the year that we're in, in the country that we're in.
Yep.
Like, if you know anything about the condition that this country is in, then you wouldn't even be saying that. You just sound out of touch, like for real.
Yep. How many black athletes are playing in the NBA, bringing revenue to these states just for them to be going to the white neighborhoods and everything? And the people that they worked hard with and work hard for is not touching none of the bread that they working hard for the state for.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I gotta say in this, y'all making bread off of me. You know what I'm saying? That makes no sense.
And at the end of the day, nobody is going to play sports for the rest of their lives. It's just not going to happen. At some point, I'm walking away from the game, whether it's earlier than I want or right or later. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to have to get involved in what goes on in my life outside of the court. Like you said, Rez, when we were saying, hold on, I just lost the train of thought. Yo, what did you say?
Last thing?
Huh?
Was it the last thing I said?
Nah, it wasn't the last thing you said. Oh, politics affect your day-to-day life. Like literally it affects your day-to-day life. And when you're not playing, it's that's your day-to-day life. Like, you got to know what goes on and what legislation is being passed that affects your everyday life. So when you off the court and you still have that heavy influence, that big platform, why not use it? Why not speak on things that need to be spoken on? Why not give that voice to those who don't have the voice? You follow what I'm saying? Like, if we know that these guys know important people and can push for certain things to happen and to change lives, why would we tell them not to do it? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And then we can go to the last aspect. Let me talk to him real quick. Mark. Yo, bro, let me you feel me? Let me talk to him real quick. Because when Brown was talking about the social justice issues and the inequality and everything like that, what do you think happened in the NFL when Colin Kaepernick took that knee, right? When he did it in 2016, the Texans owner followed a statement in 2017 talking about we can't have inmates run the prison. That's what he said in response to them taking that knee. Now, some people may not agree with them doing that in order to speak out against injustice and inequality, but the fact that you say we can't have inmates running the prison is crazy. And then he goes on to say, like, he kind of apologizes for it, but my thing is, why was that the first reference that come to mind? Why not we can't have employees overpowering the employers? You go automatically say we can't have inmates running a prison, and that's why athletes speak out on things like that. Because imagine if they didn't, people will continue to speak like that. And it's not, and that's just to athletes, just multi-million-dollar people. Now imagine if somebody like me and you, they can say whatever.
Which makes no sense because a prison isn't a prison without prisoners.
Right.
And that just go back
people
to
run it, like,
and that just goes back to, like, you have to just be a good person and a person that wants to see the benefit of society, and you're gonna do exactly what LeBron is doing. Like, and everyone's supposed to do what he's doing, just on a smaller version of themselves. So you telling him not to do that is like saying not to be a positive part of society. You know what I mean? Right.
Like, it just makes no sense. You guys.
Nah, you was flowing.
My boy was
reaching. I'm just enjoying it.
Nah, you know what I'm saying?
I can feel the energy in the room. I'm not even in the room right now.
You know what I mean, bro? Like,
I'm loving it.
Yo, bro, because like, it's just, when it comes to this topic, you know, and we can't even just look at it on a professional stage. Even when you drop down to college and you drop down to high school, and literally, what did Rondo tell us when we was at Pace? He was like, people are looking at us as the example, like, not only for football but for athletics. Like, the football team is, and why the football team? Because we are a large part of the athletic department. People are looking at us whether they're trying to follow our influence or not. We are setting examples that people look at. So when we know that, we have to speak out on certain things that we know aren't right. You follow me? And that's the same thing in high school. High school, they look at athletes, particularly football and basketball. They're looking at them. You need to be the example. They always say that. You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to be the upstanding standard and everything like that. So it's like, you want us to do these things, but now when we using the platform that we have been given and the platform that we have to speak on certain issues that need to be spoken on, like, you can't sit here and try to give us backlash on when we do it.
Like, it's basically like they want to give us a platform with a ceiling on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you go back to all the way to, like, Jackie Robinson. I mean, athletes have been making a difference for social change for as long as for a minute. You know, they tried to marginalize us in baseball with Negro Baseball League, and Jackie Robinson was the first person to make that
African American,
transition, to the MLB,
Mhm.
and that created social change,
Mhm.
and that brought more awareness. You know what I mean? Because not everyone's into politics, not everyone watches politics. You know,
Yeah.
and a lot of our generation, we don't watch. We don't. How many times we've been in a crib watching CNN
Yeah,
or
right.
NBC or something?
Right.
Never.
ESPN is always on.
Always
you know
on.
what I mean?
Always.
And if
Never.
Colin Kaepernick takes a knee or LeBron says this or that, you know, that's bringing awareness to us.
Mhm.
That's bringing awareness to people who aren't as
Mhm.
into politics or whatever. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because before Colin Kaepernick, I wasn't aware at how many people were getting shot by police officers.
Like the
you know?
magnitude of it. We knew the
Yeah,
problem
we knew
was there.
it was happening, but we didn't know the
it was on a
magnitude of
yeah,
it.
it was on a
And
huge
for him
scale.
to take a
Yeah.
knee, that's a big deal, you
Yeah.
know,
I feel
because
like-
that affects our everyday life, and we play sports, and now it's like we're aware. Should we take a knee?
Yeah. I
I
You
feel
know,
like what Colin did was kind of like, those situations where like you meet another person from another place and you're like, oh, y'all do that too. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like
Yeah,
we was
yeah.
all in our hoods like, damn, the cops be wilding. They can't be doing that everywhere. And then like Colin took a knee, he's like, oh, they be wilding over there too. You know what I'm saying? Type of
Yeah.
moment. But it brings it brought unition, like a united sense, like, oh, yo, this is a big problem
Yeah.
because it's going on everywhere. And now we see what's going on today. So yeah, Darius made a great point about
Yeah,
that.
that was
feel
a
like-
beautiful
I
point.
mean, because the media
That's really
influences
crazy
so
to think
much.
about, bro.
Mm-hmm.
What were you about to say, Phil?
No, I was just saying that's really crazy to think about. Like we literally witnessed history. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
No,
really
but
crazy.
what I was about to say is the media influences so much. They can they can blow something out of proportions, or they can marginalize something. And sports is one of the things that's consistently in the media. It's consistent. Like you're gonna see something about sports. You know what I mean? But not everything bad that happens you don't see. Like during the pandemic or earlier during the pandemic, there was like a bombing in Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
That didn't get much coverage. You know what I mean?
The eruption that happened in the volcanic eruption that happened
Happened
in
That's
St.
going
Lucia, I
Hawaii?
think.
right now.
Yeah, it wasn't
No, it's
Hawaii.
like St. Vincent.
St. Vincent, yeah,
That's
yeah,
going
yeah.
on right now.
Yep.
That's not getting a lot of coverage.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when an athlete has that platform and has the opportunity to voice their opinions or voice their concerns that are going on in today's society,
Yeah.
I think you owe that to the people who are being taken advantage of,
Yeah.
or the people who are being hurt by certain things. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And that's kind of what Colin Kaepernick did,
Right.
and that's kind of what LeBron James tries to do every day. And you see athletes more so now doing it more so than ever. I think.
Yeah,
So,
I believe that too. And let me pull out those words you said. You said voice your opinions and voice their concerns. You follow me? Because that's what it is. Like I'm voicing my opinion that I'm entitled to voice, that I have the freedom to voice, and I'm voicing my concern because I know that there is an issue that needs to be resolved. And it won't if I'm not the one that speaks on this. You follow me? Especially if you are coming from those situations, from those circumstances. Like you've witnessed firsthand how it can affect somebody in the negative way. And you're just trying to correct the situation before another kid falls to the wayside or falls victim to it. And that's what it is when it comes to activism. Like we are just shedding light to an area that's been dark for so long. And I'm a product of it, but I want to make sure that there are other kids who are not a part of it, or other individuals who don't become a product of it. You follow what I'm saying? Like it's this is why it's important. If I can reach millions of people with one post, I'm going to do it.
and the thing is, people get mad at these athletes and stuff. Like they're actually trying to change legislation.
Yeah.
Or they're trying to change laws. They're literally voicing their concern. So how can you get mad at someone for voicing their concern? And people would say, "Oh, Colin Kaepernick needs to keep politics out of sports. Just play the game. Why do we have to stand for the national? Why is the national anthem even played then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're keeping politics out
Literally.
of sports." So, and that's basically
Don DeMarco,
Yo, that was
Marco.
good. That was a
So-
good one. Yeah. Listen, any last words? I think I got.
Yeah, what you feel?
Yo, bro. Yo, Rez, you got any last words you want to say for the people, bro?
Nah, man.
Nice.
Good.
All right, say that. So we just gonna go ahead and wrap it up with that. Make sure y'all tune in, man. Like I said, I knew this was gonna be a good one. We got our boy D Jones. We got our boy Rez Rays. We got Arbo in the cut. Y'all don't forget about Arbo.
Bonito.
You feel me? Got Arbo in the cut. But yeah, listen. the messages we coming with are strong. You know what I'm saying? We definitely got some passion and determination behind these things that we're trying to disseminate. And we just want to reach people. That's really what it is. Make sure y'all follow us on YouTube at DB on TV. We on Instagram at _DB_podcast. We on Apple Podcasts. We on Spotify. We on Pandora. We on all that, man. Check us
all the
out.
stores.
Make sure y'all keep tuning in with us, all right?
Yes.
Say that.